I fixed my sleep schedule. Like, actually fixed it. Going to bed when I wanted, waking up when I wanted, and not feeling like a zombie. I thought that was the hard part. The first morning I woke up pretty rested. I made my coffee, sat down on my desk or the couch, and opened my laptop, and then watched YouTube for an hour at 6 in the morning. And I remember sitting there thinking, I just spent 2 weeks fixing my sleep for this. And when I realized sleep wasn't the only problem, magically waking up early isn't going to fix my productivity problems. It was just an excuse I was using to avoid the actual problem. And once I fixed the sleep, the next layer of challenges or problems emerge. This is what I mean by you can't see all the steps you need to take until you actually start taking action, instead of just coming up with a better plan constantly. The plan will change as you get more information. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what I mean. When I finally fixed my sleep schedule and what I had to fix next. This is part 2 of fixing my life like a system. If you're new here, I'm Patrick. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. So last video I talked about my sleep and treating it like an environment problem, not a discipline problem. This video is what happens the morning after. So sleep starts in the evening, the night before, but once you fix your sleep schedule, what's next? Section 1. Sleep was the easy excuse. Bad sleep is an incredibly convenient thing to blame. Tired? That's why you didn't work yesterday. Can't focus? Must be because you're exhausted. Unproductive week? Your sleep's been off. It's always a go-to excuse, right? And some of that was true. Bad sleep genuinely does affect everyone and everything. But it's also used as a blanket explanation a lot of the time for a problem that's bigger than just sleep. When I fixed my sleep and the problem was still there, I had to actually look at it. And what I saw was different from the default state. And what I saw was that my default state, the thing I did when I had no plan and no structure, was distraction. Not even deliberate procrastination. Just drifting onto my laptop into whatever was easiest until enough time has passed that I would get to work, whether it be an assignment or client work, because I had no clear first move. The sleep was masking that. And once it was gone, there it was. Section 2. What the mornings actually look like. Let me be specific about what was actually happening. I'd wake up, feel okay, get up, make coffee, and then sit down at my desk or the couch and get to work. And then just float around. No clear first action, no defined task, just sort of existing near my laptop. When you have no clear first move, your brain picks the default, which is always the easiest, lowest friction option available. For me, that was going on YouTube. Not because I consciously chose it, but because I hadn't consciously chosen anything else first. And this was the most dopamine I could give my brain, and the path of least resistance. You're always going to pick the easiest path by default if you don't have something else planned out. So I decided to track this for a week. Not formally, just not paying attention to it. I'd be writing it down occasionally, and most mornings I was losing the first 1 to 2 hours before I got a single thing done that mattered. Sometimes more. And here's what's annoying about it. I wasn't watching something I really wanted to, like a TV show or a movie. I was just running on autopilot. Whatever I felt like watching on YouTube, which is almost worse than deliberate procrastination, because at least deliberate procrastination is a choice. It's fine to relax in the evening after you got your main thing done, or you're trying to make progress towards. It's fine to relax in the evening after you got your main thing done that you're trying to make progress towards. But this was just delaying starting my day, and taking action in the midst of uncertainty, under the guise of being tired and needing to wake up. I would always say, I'm not a morning person, or I'm a slow starter. But I started to question, was that even true, or was that just a self-fulfilling prophecy I told myself? Of me telling myself that to be true, and then acting it out. A little bit of sauce here, and this might go over a lot of people's heads, but if you get this, it's honestly such a paradigm shift. I might touch on this more in another video, but I'm the type of person statements are so important for how you interact with reality. And not on some crystal girl stare in the mirror and say affirmations type way, but if you don't believe you're the type of person who is a morning person, you're not going to be one. If you don't believe you're the type of person who can work for a couple of hours without getting distracted, you're not going to be. This goes into metaphysics and the CIA, but this is a topic for another video. Section 3. The real problem was no defined start. The thing I kept coming back to when I looked at the pattern, every wasted morning had the same root cause. I hadn't decided what I was going to start when I sat down. Now that may seem like a small thing. It's not. Plan out one task you'll do for your main thing, and maybe a few smaller tasks for your day. And maybe a few smaller tasks for your day is going to be huge. Steve Jobs talked about this as signals. So your signal to noise ratio, you have a couple of main things they're going to do, then everything else is noise, is how he described it. Because the moment you sit down without a defined first action, the decision making starts. What should I work on? Where do I start? What's most important? And decision making is exhausting. So your brain shortcuts it by going to whatever requires no distraction. Whatever's going to give you the most amount of dopamine for the least amount of effort, which is usually going to default to either scrolling, YouTube videos, movies, TV shows, whatever's easiest for you to do the least, right? The first few minutes of your morning set the tone for your whole day. Not because of some motivational reason, but because of momentum. If you're able to win the first 10 minutes, you're in motion. If you lose the first 10 minutes, you're playing catch up. And catch up most days never fully happens, and you kind of end the day saying tomorrow will be different. I've been thinking about my mornings as something to get through before the real work started. Coffee, wake up, and kind of ease into my day. But that easing in period was where I was losing a lot of time before my day even really started. Section 4. Why motivation never showed up. Here's the other thing I had to admit. I was still waiting to feel like working. To be more awake and ready to go. Even with the sleep fixed, I'd wake up and think, okay, let me just get settled in first. Let me feel ready. And the feeling almost never came on its own until a few hours had passed when I'd be ready, already wasted half the morning. Then you're running on urgency to get things done rather than being proactive. This is another reason why having at least 1 to 3 tasks you have to complete in your day, or at least one of them being the biggest lever towards making progress for your main thing, is so important. Because you will do things in the time you give yourself to do something. If you give yourself 1 day to do that assignment, you'll do it in 1 day. If you have 1 week, you'll probably still do it in 1 day, just the day of the deadline. The problem isn't motivation. The problem is that motivation follows action. It doesn't precede it. You don't feel like working and then start. You start and then feel like working. Now, this may sound counterintuitive, but this is actually how it works psychologically. The moment you start doing a task, even a small version of it, your brain begins to engage with it. Your resistance drops and you start building a bit of momentum. But you have to actually start first. You're using Newton's first law. An object in motion remains in motion. But I kept waiting for the feeling to start for me. I was essentially waiting for something that could only come from doing the thing. I was waiting to feel ready to do it. Section 5. What I changed. The fix was simpler than I expected. The night before, not in the morning. The night before is where it happens, since like I keep saying, everything starts the night before. I would write down my single most important thing that I need to do the next day, the number one action towards my main thing. Not a list, one thing. And if you really don't know where to start, I mean, an actual main lever action item on your main thing is a good place. If you need to get an assignment done or reach out to people for your business, make that your one thing. It's important to mention that you shouldn't be putting something like going to the gym for a workout as your main thing if this is already something that's easy for you and is a habit, right? Pick something hard that you really don't want to do. This is usually what you need to do. What you want is usually in the work that you've been avoiding. And then sit there and start the thing before you do anything else. This is the eat the frog principle, doing the hardest task first to win your day, if you will, and then the rest of the day will feel a lot easier. The other thing I changed, I stopped calling it a morning routine, or even thinking about like routines, because routine implies it's a sequence of things you do every morning, and a sequence requires decisions, rather than just grab coffee and water, sit down, and start your one thing. Don't open anything else first. That's it, not a sequence or routine, one thing. Did this transform my morning routines overnight? No, but the average morning is now measurably better than it was, and I'm losing significantly less time each day, which is the game, right? If you're younger, all you have is time and energy. Figure out how to put more hours into your main thing, and you'll have a much better chance of making it work out for you. Section 6. What this expose next. Here's the thing about fixing your morning. It works well for the first hour or two. Start strong, you get momentum, and then it runs out. Because starting is one problem. Sustaining focus for the rest of the day is a completely different one. I can now reliably start my work when I want to, but I couldn't reliably stay in it. Not for 12 hours like I wanted to actually get all the stuff done I needed to. I get pulled out of a task after 20 to 30 minutes, checking something, switching to something else, getting bored, and then getting back into that deep focus after that took much longer than you'd think, which is the next thing I had to fix. Not just starting, but actually staying focused once I started. That's what the next video is about in this series here. Here's what fixing my sleep actually taught me. Every time you fix one problem, you either find the next problem underneath it, or you find out the first problem was covering for the second one, or even more, right? Sleep was covering for my relationship with distraction, and distraction was covering for the fact that I didn't have a clear enough definition of what I was supposed to be doing at any given moment. You can fix your sleep, and you can fix your morning, but if you don't know what you're doing it for, you'll find a way to waste time you just created. My mornings are better now. Not perfect, but it's important to know that it's never going to be a linear line. Like, you're not going to be perfect at doing something, even if you do have the right systems. There's still going to be ups and downs. Like last week, I sat down to start my main thing, and then I spent 2 hours reorganizing my light setup instead. Still a form of avoidance, just a tidier one. But I caught it, started the actual work, and the day was fine. Progress is more about catching yourself faster each time. Take consistent action on your main thing, and don't stop. Peace.